Woo.
Welcome to another edition of the MSP Initiative Live. It's Thursday. And we're already on a shortened week, right? Because there was a holiday this week. But it is Thursday. That means you're one day closer towards another weekend, and hopefully good weather weekend potentially, because that means you can get out and enjoy a little bit of summertime. Because we are officially in summertime, June, July, August, right? It's when all the schools finally let out and we can actually hit wherever the vacation spot is, right? Beach, mountains, or your backyard, whatever works for you. I know Pete has a nice backyard who's joining us today. Thanks for jumping on there, Pete. Let me just do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll chat a little bit. So for anyone who watches these episodes, hopefully many do, we talk about a couple of housekeeping items, and here I will bring them up. So first, all these sessions are recorded. I'll remind you again at the end. They're available at mspinitiative.com under sessions. We've just completed the Channel Strong Tour Midwest edition, so these dates are all behind us. But the next Channel Strong Tour is at the last 2 weeks of July, so next month, about 45 days away from now. So if you're in the Northeast, right, DC, Baltimore, Philly, Jersey, New York, New England, we're coming to you. We'll be launching those dates shortly. Stay tuned. And lastly, we do a monthly giveaway. And you can enter June's monthly giveaway and win up to one of these 10 interesting prizes from our 10 participating vendors. Again, all you got to do is enter to win, fill out a form, must enter to win. If you don't buy the ticket, can't win the lottery. So now that all that's behind us, of course, I have my Channel Strong Tour nifty t-shirt, or many of them as they're piling up. Bring Pete Busam back to the show. Pete's probably not been on MSP Initiative Live in 2021, but he definitely visited a few times last year. And Pete and his company Equilibrium have been helping us and sponsoring the Channel Strong Tour. So his team's been working on helping us, kind of each 2-week run that we've been doing here. And sometimes Pete even joins us out on the road, which he did this past run, him and his fast car that brings out maybe police.
I think we got to experience that this time.
Yeah. I made fun of you the one time. I'm like, they never take you out of the car. But apparently I was wrong. No.
I was already out of the car though.
Right, exactly. Well, when it sounds loud, it definitely brings scrutiny, right?
Well, the neighbors called and said that a bunch of kids were doing quarter-mile runs with a Mustang. So the officer finally, when he realized, and he said, "Whose car is this?" So I walked over. Of course, everybody's like, "Oh, busted!" But he was like, "Yeah. So this is definitely not a quarter mile, and this is definitely not a Mustang. This is
Exactly.
a GTR." So I asked him. I said, "Hey, you ever see one of these?" And he's like, "Yeah, I pulled over a couple and ticketed." I said, "Come on, let me show you." And all of a sudden, he was a buddy, and he was enjoying. And I was like, "Hey, I'll take you for a ride." He's like, "No, I don't want to upset the neighbors. The last thing I need to do is get in with my body cam, get in the car, and then get out and try and go handle the complaint." And he goes, "But I'm going to handle the complaint. Don't worry about that."
Right,
So,
right.
and then he hung out and he looked at the car a little bit and went on his way. He was cool about it.
That's probably one of the better experiences probably that any of us will run into. But no, I at least you gave somebody something to complain about, which is easy to do these days, I think.
Yes, it is.
But no, that was great. I appreciate you for coming out on Channel Strong Tour. I think that was in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, yeah.
Bob Coppedge's parking lot there in
Yeah,
Stowe, Ohio.
It was.
And actually we were just planning the final locations today for Northeast. So yep.
Yeah.
All
was good.
Yeah. So Pete is our resident marketing mind, if you would. And Pete, it's interesting, right? I would say now more than ever, it's been happening for years, but now more than ever, with the pipeline, with the meat processing, with the the SolarWinds thing earlier in the year, and like all of a sudden the mainstream news, whatever channel you follow, is doing a lot of legwork for MSP IT guys out there, because now it's not something that you have to educate people on. They're now probably starting to come to the professionals saying, all right, what do we got to do to not have this be us, right?
All right.
I'm curious how the consistent current event situation that's happening helps drive the strategy on hopefully bringing in some new business and expanding existing customers, kind of appetite for security related stuff. I got to assume that that's right at the top of the list now.
Oh yeah. So it's like the news and the mainstream media always drive the fear that goes into everything, right? They give you enough to say what's going to happen. So the MSPs, everybody's been always saying it's not if, it's when, right? And the MSPs say, yeah, you got to do this, and the customers say, yeah, but I got to spend the money, and so it's really helping change. Now it's coming top of mind. It's there, and everybody's starting to say, all right. So I mean, our customers and everybody are focused 100% now on security. Everything else is a drag, right? All drag, managed services is a drag. Continuity is all part of the security, right? Good backup. You don't have a good backup, you're going to pay the ransom, which you shouldn't do anyway, right? But for a lot of reasons, it's certainly driving the conversations much differently. And we heard that on the tour this time too. Everybody was like, a lot of the partners that were on the tour are cyber related, right? Defenses on the perimeter, defenses in the cloud, defenses at the endpoint. And so, I got to believe that our partners that were on there, they were doing gangbusters in their conversations or follow-ups that they need to do. It's got to be a pretty good feeling, to do that. And even for us, we're a niche market. If people know they want marketing, but they're not willing to pay for marketing, right? So, and we're seeing that shift. We're seeing a shift.
I think that there's a blurry line now, right, between marketing and content creation and social, right? Like, just like we've done here with MSP Initiative, right? We started a podcast. We do several per week, right? 4 weeks in a month. There's 12 months in a year. That's a lot of content being created. But I mean, a lot of people finally started to get out from behind the cave that they hide in, and like maybe if they weren't most personable people in the past, like they've tried to step out of their comfort zone and put their face out there, right? Create a persona,
right.
Create a brand. But I think that that's a little bit confused, like getting blurred with some of the tried and true kind of science to marketing, right? Like, hey, landing pages and SEO and ads, and how do we drive traffic from local geographical, towns and cities, and like it's all. But in reality, Pete, and I'm sure you're going to tell me what I think you're going to tell me, which is it all supposed to be intermeshed. If it's working properly, it's all tied, right?
So everybody always says marketing. Oh, I hire somebody and they do email marketing for me. And, I'm not really worried about social, because think about it. 5 years ago, would you have ever expected a lead to come to you from Facebook and buy?
No.
What about now?
I see people will raise their hand and then ask questions which could lead to the conversation. But definitely more likely you'll, not necessarily people coming directly to your like business page, but if you're actively interacting in the groups and
right.
Like that kind of stuff, absolutely that works. But if you just expect somebody to show up at your page and hit I want to buy on social without anything else, that's probably still rare. Do you think?
I think it's rare, but you hit the point. Engagement in social by the business, right? So when people are bringing up topics, if you go out and engage, you get recognized. And if you get recognized, you're more likely to have people look at your website or do that. And then you have tools that are embedded in your website to see somebody came and jumped over from Facebook, or somebody came from a certain business, the anonymous web visitor type stuff. So all of these tools where people used to view one thing at a time, like, oh, I can only do this. Now it's like, can I do one webinar, 2 webinars? Can I do the email? Can I get some press out? And that omni-channel is what's working now, because all of the digital transformation requires all of those things to work together. It's not just one, right? I hate to use the digital transformation because it means so many things to so many people, but realistically, we're talking more people on LinkedIn with messages, just connecting with them, not going out and bombarding them with an email the minute that somebody connects, but getting them to like our page, and then, trying to welcome them and make them feel like, look at our stuff. We got some good thought leadership for you.
I've definitely seen an uptick on the people inviting people on like a LinkedIn event, where you're just hosting something and then they're being invited. It's like the LinkedIn version of a Facebook, event, right? Where you list an event, invite people to it, but it hasn't become really popular until recently, like last 4 or 5 months, right?
Right.
It's very intriguing to me that, like, you almost, even if you're a small shop, even if you're, sub 5-man shop, 1-man shop, 3-man shop, 5-man shop, whatever, or even if you're a larger business, you almost need to have a plan, right? From like somebody needs to be monitoring and engaged on all the platforms, right? Somebody needs to be, making sure content's scheduled to go out. Somebody needs to be, aggregating all this data across all the platforms. Maybe somebody needs to be monitoring, your ad campaigns to make sure that they're working, right? All of this, like, there's a lot of moving parts. There is. And I know there's platforms out there to help, right? Like there's the HubSpots of the world, or Infusionsoft, or, like kind of the marketing.
But even them, they can be so complicated that now you need somebody that understands how to just manage them, right? So it's another portion, and it's an integral part. I mean, if you don't track the engagement through reporting and analytics, then you really can't expect to have an effective program. You've got to take those digital, or you got to take the tool sets, take that data and put it somewhere. And those tools are great at putting the data in, so you can score and start to work your prospects. Very important. So
a lot of the times, though, these IT companies, these managed service providers out there, they're still trying to handle all of this out of the PSA. And I just don't think that that's the right tool now. I mean, it used to be you can make it work. Now there's so many things now that are happening across all these different platforms. You're almost non-starter, right?
Well, it all depends on the size and the maturity of the organization, right? So, and not a commercial, but we have tools that we've created that help with that, and glue the external systems to the PSA so the data flows and gets to reps and moves. It works faster, and there's various tools out there that will do that. But as you mature, the PSA definitely does not cover the full gamut of what you need to do, what you need to track, how you can move it through your pipeline, right? Because everybody's like, oh, it's in my pipeline when I write a quote. No. It's in your pipeline when you first talk to them, right? And qualify them down a little bit and start moving them through. And that's something that a PSA just can't do. It just doesn't have that ability to move your target or your prospect, suspect, whatever it is, down through your funnel of getting them to move to the next funnel of quoting, right? So, or opportunity.
Yeah. Well, what is, like, let's say you do line up all your stuff, right? Let's say you do finally get humming, right? Like, I know, on my end, right? We're getting something like 65 to 85 just leads, inbound leads a month, not in our database. We've never talked to them. We never called them. They found some piece of content on the internet. They're like, oh, that's interesting. I need more information. And all of a sudden they show up on the radar, right? How quickly what is the workflow people should be running on here? Like, because time is very critical on those types of situations, right? Like, what is the average time it would take? You shouldn't wait past, I guess, to start engaging and trying to get people, past the form submission.
Man, I got to tell you, if I receive a form, and I would tell you if anybody receives a form, I hope you have a workflow that wherever you're receiving it notifies you right away and you're making that phone call. Think about how many providers are in your space, George, right? How many, right? It's a very competitive space, right? So if you don't respond quickly, it's like the yellow pages. Who might be next, right? Who's the next one, right? And then they miss out on what the true value that you bring to the table is, because they were impatient, right? So, but the need, everybody's connected with their phones. We've become a world of instant, instant response. So, with chat in the website, with, forms, with email, with phone, people have so many ways they can communicate back to you now to get to you. And those are all part of your strategy, right? Is when are you available and when are you not? Setting the expectation up front. So if somebody fills out the form, hey, we'll get back to you within 24 hours. But a lot of people just say, thank you. Someone will be in contact with you. Well, what the hell does that mean? Right? It could mean today, tomorrow, whatever. But I would say, an acceptable workflow would be, if it's not done when the form comes in, you've missed an opportunity, because people move at a speed now that they're looking at possibly 2 or 3 partners in that space. So, the quicker that you can get to that lead, certainly you do it. And that's where the PSA fails, right? You can send it in as a ticket and have a ticket do a workflow, but in the end, something that comes into another system lets you prioritize, move it, and keep it in a system and tracking it through. So
yeah, 100%. So basically same day, right? I mean, if you could get to it within the hour, better. But yeah, if you can get to them same day, great. If not, next day, great. But I hear every 24 hours after that, your percentage chances of conversion go down dramatically.
Yeah, and we even if you can't call them the same day, you can send an email with an online calendar that accesses yours, and you can send them, hey, I'm out of the office today, I'm booked up, but hey, here is my link. Go ahead and let's schedule some time and have a conversation. And that way they can look at your calendar and schedule some time for yourself. You're still being responsive. And, in sales and marketing, their first impression is, how responsive are you going to be? Because if you can't be responsive in sales and marketing, how are you going to be responsive in service?
Yeah.
Right. So that's their first, you're setting the first service level, making that first contact.
Agreed. How much,
and by the way, 65 a month is awesome. That's a great number.
Sometimes you get up to
an MSP is not going to get 65 a month.
Yeah, I've had some months where we got like 90 plus, and I was like, wow, this is great.
That's
great. And the best part is leads us right into the next question. And we've talked about this before, but it's worth hammering again. Marketing is not listen, you can measure a lot of things, and that's part of the science, right? And you should, if it can be measured, you should measure it.
Right.
But it's not instant. It does take time. And the content that we've generated over the last 2 or 3 years to start to build that 60 to 80 to 90, inbound leads of just people that are coming in the front door. We've never communicated with them before. That took time. That took time to build up. That took time to matriculate to the internet and do its thing. And you can push it faster if you spend more, right? With SEO and ads and all that stuff. But generally speaking, the inbound marketing concept is keep on creating good content, keep on creating more educational items, keep on putting things out there to help people learn, and the rest will come, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be very salesy, but it has to be very informative and educational, right? That's one way to do it.
Be seen, be heard.
Yeah.
Be seen, be heard. That's one of our mottos, right? And the more you're seen and heard, the more opportunity you have.
So
I feel like I should do a Ken here. Hold on.
Go ahead. There you go.
All right, here we go. All right, let's go.
I got one for you.
All right.
All right, you're gonna love this one.
Ah, very nice.
There you go.
Well, we're sending some Jets attire for Oliver, so.
I could go back to this one. Hold on. Now, since we're in between tours, though, right?
Nice. There you go.
Non-Eagles logo for you. But anyway, so how much content should be being created per month, and how long does it take for that content to start paying some dividends?
Well, like anything, it's a train, right? You get on a long road and you're going to go coast to coast, and then you're going to turn around and come back, right? Because that's the only route that you have. So it's a big loop, right? But content, social, anywhere up to 22 posts a month, social. 22 is like probably the max where you start to saturate, and things will overload and not not indexed properly, or the social media will start to penalize you if you're doing more. Non-selling content, educational content. It's okay to sell your stuff, but mix it in with some good educational stuff. And a lot of people make that mistake. So make sure you're doing it. Obviously, the other thing is embed as much as you can in your own website, right? Embed it in your website and send people to your website. Give them the tickler or the short version or enough to whet their appetite to go read the full blog or article or what have you, right? And make sure, of course, if you're taking somebody else's article, you give them credit and you ask for the reprint or whatever it is digitally, right? But so social, that's a big part. Emails, it depends on your following. If you've got a good following, weekly. If you're trying to penetrate a market, do weekly. But you've got to do more than just one market, right? Because if you're working on one market, and that's not working, or it's a slower market, it's a lagging market, depending on where the economic conditions are. You could be missing out on these other ones. So you've got to run anywhere from 2 to 4 campaigns electronically through email and maybe some regular postal mail too, to show up and do it. Again, it's be seen, be heard, be consistent, be deliberate. Right? Those are the 4 keys of what we say. So it's repetition. It's a numbers game. The more numbers, just like sales, the more dials you make, the more opportunity you're going to connect with somebody. If you connect, it's a ratio, right? So when we look at things, we don't look at the demand generation side of the calling. We look at what are the metrics of engagement. And then after about 4 to 6 months, we start to look at that engagement a little differently to make sure that we're paying dividends, right? Are we starting to get it? Are our callers that are working on the demand gen side or reps, are they starting to make the contacts and getting easier conversations than they used to? Because people recognize the brand. And that's what marketing is. It's about positioning the brand so those that are following up or at trade events or see people in person, when they see the brand, it's recognizable, right? So that's the key, repetition.
What are your feelings? And since you bring up the word brand, sometimes sometimes a refresh is required, right? Like if somebody created their company 20 years ago, right? And maybe 20 years ago was cool, it was fine, it fit. But like things change, the feeling changes, the buying person changes, and now you need to kind of retool, refit, represent what the company does. How, like, if you haven't changed your website since 2000, probably overdue, right? Like, what is that cycle?
Yeah, so if you want to look like and your whole company is about looking like the 90s and you're a retro company, then yeah, stay where you're at. But it's probably not working for you. So there's a lot of new things that you should do. At a minimum, you should refresh your face of your site and your content. Minimum, if it's static content, every 3 years. I would tell you now that every year and a half, your competitors are looking at you and they're probably stealing parts of your content and your SEO and everything else, because that's what everybody does now at the speed that we're moving. So, refreshing your web page or your front page every year, and your content should gradually change every month, because if you're not changing your content, your SEO is not working for you, and that's organic SEO, right? When you change that and you put new keywords and on page and things of that nature, you've got to get fresh content in order for the engines to continue to look at you and do it. So if you sit more than 30 days, Google will pare back, right? And then after 3 months, if you haven't changed, they'll pare back more. Now your site, instead of being crawled every 30 or every 7 days, is now every 3 months, every 4 months.
Wow.
And that's bad. That's bad, right? And now we've got even bigger things where Google's threatened now that but they didn't threaten, they've announced they're going away from cookies. So it's going to give us a whole new thing here within about 12 to 14 months of cookies are a thing of the past. So how are you going to track those people? How are you going to do those pop-up ads that, everybody was like, hey, I was just doing this and then I went into Facebook and all of a sudden I got these ads. Well, yeah, because the advertisers go cross-platform, right? So they're all working on the back end now for new technologies to how are we going to deploy this, right? There's
Hmm.
still going to be cookies, but not to the extent that they are right now, right? Because
Hmm.
privacy now is moved into the digital, and it's not just the MSP protecting the infrastructure. Now the website needs to be protected. Now all these other things, because they're all ways of delivery of malware and things of that nature. So even guys like us, where we have a pretty robust web platform, we have a whole new layer of things that we're laying in that you won't ever see, but we have to put it in to protect that platform. So
Hmm.
so there, it provides a whole new thing. And if you don't stay compliant with Google, you might as well hang it up, because they're the ones that are really pushing it.
Yeah, no, that's true. So, like from a budgeting standpoint, I'm sure there's some number, right? Like every time somebody's like, well, how much should I invest in my IT? It's like, well, 1% of your gross, revenue should be allocated towards IT. Or, I forget what the percentage is. I'm just throwing an idea out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure the size of the organization changes the answer, but what is the investment in marketing that should be allocated from a budgetary standpoint? Is it a percentage? Is it a dollar amount? Like, is it I hire a full-time person? How do you come to that answer?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct. A lot of people say it's a percentage, right? Well, if you're a $500,000 and you put 1% towards it, it really doesn't buy you much marketing, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to make the investment, you have to be prepared to make the investment and stay with it long term, right? You can't just say, well, I've been doing it for 3 months and I'm not getting anything out of it, because the minute that you stop, you go back 60 days, 45 to 60 days, and start over. And everybody that you built the following says, what happened to them? Did they go out of business? So again, my 4 buzzwords: consistent and deliberate, are part of that too. Be seen, be heard, consistent and deliberate, right? So you've got to stay on the train. So once you set your budget, you got to keep going. You can't stop, right? Now, I can tell you from our piece, depending on the size of the MSP and how many campaigns you're going to run, you're probably looking at, a coordinator in-house that's tethered part-time or full-time. And then you're looking for staff that you can outsource to, like a company like us, and you're probably looking $3,000 to $5,000 a month, right? But as you scale, that percentage diminishes because your revenue is growing or your profits are growing. It should be, at least in theory, right? So up front, it's a significant investment. So if you were looking at the models, and there's various models out there, you would never hit your best in class for marketing. You'd be in the red for probably 2 years before you grew to the point where it started to pay benefits. So I would say 3,000 to 5,000 is an average number, and then that's just your marketing, right? You still have to have somebody on the demand gen side, the outbound side, to follow up. Otherwise, all the efforts, when you start to finally get that inbound flow into your pipeline, somebody's got to follow up. And if you're owner led, you need to make some decisions, because owner led usually means a lot of lost time because they don't have the time. So you've got to put that in your budget. When you decide to start marketing, you can pop up and do well, but you've got to be prepared to own your part of it from the engagement.
I hear that a lot, right? Like, hey, I signed up and I didn't get business. And it's like, and then there's this proverbial,
Boom.
like, well, I said, well, came through. You had 25 leads that came through this, and this. And they're like, what happened to them? And they're like, they didn't close. And you're like, but we got those people to your front door. They opened up, they walked through. Then what did you do? Right? Well, how did that conversation go? Where did you follow up with them? Did you send them a quote? Like, where, you tell us, was it just not the right fit? Like, were you getting calls from people that just didn't understand what they were looking for? Like, I feel like that's the missing link on the other side, right? That where the two meet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you tell people that struggle on that handover process?
Well, we have a very big part of, before we onboard, we actually have an expectation that we go through. And, the owners really have to make a decision, or we won't bring them on. That's where we're at in our maturity. We've had the owner led, and we've had those conversations, and some of them have been quite volatile, but usually we'll get 30, 60 days into it. And if we can't see that expectation being met and of what was set, then we have a conversation, and it either gets right or that's 30 days notice, we're firing you, which is pretty odd for the marketing company to fire the client. And we fired 4 clients last year. Not because they're not good people, not because they don't have a solid business. They just didn't have the time to commit to doing their part. And, you know, as owners, who are we accountable to? Ourselves, right? We have nobody else to hold our hand or whatever. That's why peer groups, I think, are so important for a lot, you know, because they get like an outside board that really pulls them together. But, you know, who are they accountable to? So usually when I drop that bomb, it creates a little tension for a week or two if we retain each other. And, you know, if we get past that, usually at that point they realize that, you know, they're making an investment and we're trying to look out for that investment. And that's the big thing. If you're not going to be accountable for your actions and you're going to try and shed it and say, well, you didn't do this. Wait a minute. Let's come back to the topic, right? Let's stay focused where we started, you know, because anytime we have conflict, we always try and go and find all the other things to justify why we want. Look, if you don't want to be a client, I don't want you to be a client. If you can't do it right now and you don't have the bandwidth, then you shouldn't be spending the money. And it's that good. Where are you in your maturity model of marketing? And, you know, we have some stuff published on our website that people can go and read. It's probably way back. Maybe we should refresh it and put it back up to the top again. But, you know, there's 5 levels of a maturity model in marketing. And, you know, most people operate in chaos. You know, you know, you may have different tiers of rungs, just like operational maturity. But, you know, operational is 1 to 2 for marketing for most. And they get to chaos. But once they get past chaos and they get into something strategically and it starts to operate consistently, like MSP Initiative is a great one, right? 2 webinars every day, every week. It's published. There's a whole process that flows with what you're doing, right? And so, you know, you've got an expectation. There's an accountable measurement that goes along, and you know, so you keep moving that. But if you can't be accountable for what you're paying for on your side of the engagement, then why are you doing it? Don't look to hang the marketing company. You know, they're probably delivering materials and content. You might just not be reviewing them, approving them. You know, the portion that you signed up for, or following up when something comes in. I mean, we have our stakeholder meetings all the time. Hey, I do it right away. We had a webinar. These 3 said they wanted follow-up. Who's calling? Where's the activity being tracked? Where's it, you know, if it's in the PSA, then get it in the PSA. I want to see it because I have access, right? I want to see what's going on. I want to see how I can help your rep gain, whether it's a piece of collateral we should be sending. You know, there's marketing just doesn't stop at attracting the lead. Now you've got things to support the rep to deliver the opportunity and close the deal, right? So
how much marketing energy should be put into net new customers versus marketing to the existing customers?
Well, I would tell you, you've got to probably do a good 75-25. You know, your account management should take care of your existing customers, but hey, newsletters, new features that you're adding, things that can enhance the business outcomes that you're delivering to your clients. Like, you know, you guys have a ton of integrations, right? And quite honestly, I mean, I know of a few because that's in my narrow scope of what I deal with, right? But if you're an integrator and you go out and you know, they go out and they sign up with BVoIP, what a powerful sales tool to say, I can integrate into everything, right? And grab the VoIP portion of the business and then go and start to erode your competitor and drive the wedge into your managed services or security or whatever it is, right? Just because you have integrations to their line of business application. And that's so powerful. And so many MSPs probably miss that when they go out and they're looking at BVoIP as a partner, saying, yeah, we got a VoIP partner. No, you got all this power. But, you know, here's a place where you can continue to educate, you know, you guys educate and you do it well, your partners. and you meet with your partners and you talk with your partners about what feature sets you have, what's available to them, what does it mean, how can they use it, how can they drive business outcome for their customers, which drives better outcome for them because they get more wallet share and they get stickier, right? And so all of those things. So I would tell you, new customers, 70, 75%, 25% on the account management, but make sure you have good collateral to send off that keeps your services alive and healthy, and add-ons and things that they can buy into. So when you go to a QBR, they already know about them. They've already been briefed on them. It's not like you got to sell them on it. Hey, this security feature, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's great. I attended your webinar. I read your collateral. What's it going to cost me, and how do I get it rolled out? Right. And that's the client side of the marketing. So,
How much existing customer curation should you be doing, right? Like how often do you go back to your customer? Like I know like you can set up systems like you close a ticket or it's, hey, scale of 1 to 10, where do we fit? But like I'm talking about the content you can turn around and use on the Google reviews, on the Facebook reviews, on the LinkedIn testimonials, right? Like I feel like that's stuff that could be easily, usable, right, in terms of attracting new clientele.
yeah, I mean, you're looking at that stuff as it comes in and turning it into something that you can republish and repurpose, right? So somebody gives you a good review, get it out on social, put it into a nice template, make it look sexy, and please, 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 my pet peeve, size the graphics. Don't put things in that cut across the text. I mean, this is your image, right? And how many people publish things that the text is the wrong size because the graphic is the wrong size, right? So you get cut off and you don't see things, right? I feel like I'm Italian lately with my hands going all over, but yeah, right. So, but you want to make sure that you're presenting the right image and getting that content out. So as it comes in, you should turn it. So, for instance, the ChannelPro article that just came out that Jay-Z wrote, right? You guys published that right away. I got it yesterday. I turned it to my social. It'll probably be on our pages later today or tomorrow, right? So those are current, they're relevant, and you want to keep that. That's news. It's current. It's a good vibe that gets out there, and it shows personalities of the company, how you're doing, et cetera, things of that nature. So, going back to like those 22 posts, those are all part of your 22 posts if you're looking for content, right? But it's relevant. Now, what do you curate and send back to your customers? Probably a monthly in a newsletter or just some kind of thing that you can put down, with some kind of, your RMM has the little icon and you can deliver things out to your client base. Drop it in there. Use every method that you have. Put it, if you do billing, drop a PDF attached to your electronic billing out of your PSA. You used to get bills, right? And they used to have, you can get this service in a little placard or whatever. Add that kind of stuff. Add it into your billing. Use that. Your customer is going to open that up. They're going to open the bill, and if they see that, they can do it. So all these little things are just build up to retention, right? So going back to your question though, of how much time do you spend on current and net new, is how much churn you have. If you're just churning clients, you're going to spend a lot more on net new. But if you're retaining and you're adding, now you've got true growth, right? But if you're just churning to get a new one, what are you doing? You really got to look at your company and say, what am I doing? And everybody goes through it. I don't know a business that doesn't churn before they wake up and they say it, including us. We churned a couple of years, and I had to say, what the heck? And that's when I started adding people to the team, and things got better. And now retention is very high, and we still have some customers that go back to our 13 years plus in business. So we'll be 14 years old next week. So
very good. Well, listen, longevity counts, man. It does.
Yeah.
If you talk to the people that are, let's call them PR specialists, they'll say marketing PR are nowhere in the same vicinity. I don't know. I don't think I buy that story. I still think they tie together. Tell me why and where and how much energy should be put into the PR side versus all the other stuff we've already been talking about?
Well, you should try and to do something that's PR worthy at least monthly, right? Because it's great to put that out on the newswire, it gets picked up, it's bragging rights, all of those things add up. So I believe PR is a valuable asset and part of that omni-channel marketing. There's no doubt about it, and I think that's more of a sales pitch to say you need a specialist in PR. You don't need a specialist in PR. It's not hard to write a press release. It's really not. There's acceptable formats. They're published everywhere. You can write them. It's a couple paragraphs, a quote, and about your company, and push it out the door. It's good stuff, and it is part of marketing. People like to go and see that companies are doing good stuff. They're part of the communities. They're growing. They're changing. They're adding. So I mean, PR is part of the programs that we do. So and we don't say we focus on PR. We focus on marketing. PR is a component of that, right? Key component.
How much? I mean, and there's a lot of services out there. One that comes to mind that's very popular is like Canva, right? Where it's like, hey, you don't have to be a Photoshop like guru and spend 10 hours to create an image, but you can come out with something pretty quick that looks nice, right? How much does the optics play into things now, right? Like, I feel like it's now more than ever. It's way higher on the list than it was even 5 years ago.
Yep. I don't know. I feel like we should do a commercial with these hats on. I think visual is more than anything, and we're rolling out some interesting new services, part of our blogs and stuff like that, where they're not just going to be a written component. There's going to be some things. So look for a press release from us. But there's some really key components that people are visually driven, video and seeing people, especially after the last 14 months. I can reach out, but it's not the same thing as like bumping fists or sitting down and having a cheesesteak at Tony's, or it's just not the same. So people are.
I feel bad because I haven't burned anything recently. It's been like almost a year since like I burned that Dallas shirt, or the Minnesota Vikings gear before it. Like that felt good. I haven't done
well, maybe there's some Jets attire that's on the way that'll get burnt.
Okay, now I see what
I'm just giving you some fuel for the fire, right? Is that
But visual is that, like, it needs to look
Yeah.
good. Just putting stuff together in Microsoft Word and putting it out there, I don't think it's gonna cut it anymore.
No.
Right?
No, I mean, animation in the websites, social media's got to have a clean, crisp, bright look. All of those things. That's what allure right now is. That's what's going to draw people. So it's just not a picture anymore. There's pictures with words. You got to make your graphics stand on their own without the content. That's another component. So, how can you get your message across in a couple short words, right? Explainer videos, all of those things are all just key things of communicating to the end user, about who you are, what you're about, and education, right? So, but yeah, graphics and crisp graphics. I mean, Canva is not a bad app, but we prefer to use the professional tools, but that's because we do it in such masses. I mean,
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, if you're good at it, you want the real deal, right? But if you
Yeah.
need to put something out that doesn't look horrible,
Yeah. No, and they do a good job. They have some nice stuff.
like even the Microsoft Publisher people that are still using that, I'm like, dude, I feel like that's dated. Nothing comes out of there pretty.
Yeah. No, you get jagged, you get you get the highest resolution graphic that you drop out and it still prints jagged. So
Yeah. No, it's not good.
yeah.
One of the things that we're starting to see is that every platform, right, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, they really want you to host your video clips and snippets directly on their platform rather than. I actually got this tip from you, right? If we put something on a YouTube and try and take that and it actually hurts your show rate in the feed, right? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so they're a indexable engine just like everybody else, right? So an authoritative source. So, they want you to come and see that they have advertisers that are paying too, right? So if you look at sponsored feeds and advertising that's in Facebook, even Instagram, right? Instagram is gaining notoriety in the business world, and because so many people have moved off of other platforms and just want to see pictures, right? So, but they have a high demand of advertisers, and they need to drive content and host content and index content. So if you're hosting content and you're linking it to YouTube from LinkedIn, what's going to get indexed? How much time if I see that and I click on it, I go to LinkedIn, I click, now I'm on YouTube. I as LinkedIn have lost you to see all the other content that my advertisers could be pushing in front of you. So when you take that, put your videos up there, put your content up there, and let it index to um, LinkedIn. Now, blogs, you can always put your teaser for your blogs and get enough content. So when you link out, but using articles, LinkedIn articles versus linking to those are good things too. So periodically I'll go up and I'll write something and I'll take a blog and I'll just embed it in the articles, right? So that's that. The other thing that's cool in Facebook and LinkedIn is in LinkedIn, you can actually put a page called services and you can drop snippets of your services right in. So Facebook visitors can click on services, see what you offer, and then click on a read more and go off to your website, right? So it's another indexable piece. LinkedIn used to have services. They removed services, and now it's just products. And services, it's hard to find a category to put it in. But if you're a product-driven company, you can put your products right on your LinkedIn page and have a showcase page. So again, there's just more than just dropping your social post. They have some really good tools that are available for small, medium-sized MSP to really gain some traction. But again, you got to have the bandwidth to do it all. That's the tough part.
No, 100%, or else it's just gonna. You said it's
Right.
gonna rewind on you. Is there any benefit from your standpoint in the marketing realm to do things like to hire more paid for versions of LinkedIn or the Sales Navigator or Premium or anything like that? Do you find any value in any of that?
I have value in it because there's a couple things that you can do. I don't like people raiding my contact list, so I can protect my contact list there. So, they're not raiding, just linking with everybody. So they link with me, and now they have access and they can raid. The other thing is it also lets you protect certain things that are to you, or again, who you're linked to. But you can also see who's visiting your page, where in the current version, you don't see who's viewing it. You can see that 10 people viewed your profile, but you don't know who. So the paid version stepping up a little bit does do that. Now, Sales Navigator is a whole different engine, right? It's a whole different thing. And of course, LinkedIn has about 10 products. They have recruiting, they have sales management being Navigator, but you can move people through and help move them into other areas of LinkedIn marketing as a platform, and then use that in your audience if you move to sponsored ads. So, building your followings, linking with the people that are in your audience, using the sales index, the SSI that comes in. I don't know if a lot of people even know about that, but it shows you where you influence or you don't influence, and how you rank of people that are in your realm. So those are all good things to look at. And SSI is free. You can just Google LinkedIn SSI, and you might be surprised, and then you might go to work to say, I need to improve my profile, which you do, right? So absolutely, embed it in the social platform if you can, right? So it's good. Oh, there you go. Right, and if you get your free score, it'll take you over. You have to link in. George is going to share his. All right, not bad, George. Not bad. But you can see your professional brand is good, but you're still not finding the right people. You got to get that up. Engage with insights is where you embed articles. You can look at your insights and embed some articles and drive people. So you might get notifications that say admins of this are discussing this topic by George Bardisi or whatever, and that's where you'll start to see your insights grow. But relationship wise, hey, you got it. Never been one to say that George doesn't get out. He's a shy guy, afraid to talk to everybody. So you're muted. You're still muted, George.
Have you ever helped anybody do that that trick where you can like put a token, into your page, and then as people come to your page, if they have a LinkedIn and they're signed into the LinkedIn, it starts populating on your people
Yep.
who've used your profile?
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah. So you can put some, but those are cookies, right? But those are controlled by LinkedIn, not Google. So that's good. So yeah, I mean, anywhere you can put a tracking link or UTM link or anything, whether it's email or what have you, that's always good because you get to see the engagement through the who's doing what and all that.
Totally free hack too, and you find out exactly who came to your page. I mean,
yeah,
quick win from a sales perspective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of great little hacks out there that you can Google and find and just pop in, and you'd be surprised at the information that is available through a quick hack. So
unbelievable.
Yeah.
How are your last time we talked? You were really excited about the like the RFID business card play, and obviously there was not many places to go use it. But like, are you still up on that? You still like
Heck
that?
yeah, I love it. I love it. You can scan if somebody doesn't have the protocol running on their phone. You can scan a QR code, and it just pops up. It just pops up a contact record. So you just tap it, and there it is. It detected it, and it brings up my profile page with all my information, and you can scroll down, and it'll have whatever it is, and you can put in prospect information so they can share theirs back with you, or they can click out and go to your LinkedIn profile or save it to your Outlook or what have you. So it's just a quick click and go. So yeah,
No more paper business cards. I'm gonna just boop.
Well, think about it. How many people are giving out business cards these days?
I still have my last box has not really made a dent. It's been sitting here.
Yep. So we found this really cool because you can move it right over, right? It'll index over, or it'll move over into your Outlook, which you can then synchronize with, other things to move it into a workflow or a contact list for emails, whatever it is, right? CRM or a PSA, whatever. So, but it's cool, and it's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. Hey, just making it easier for people to, communicate with you, right? I mean, QR codes seem to be pretty popular now. Like for a while, they were just like, whatever. But now it's like, I guess obviously with the, hey, you go to a restaurant, they're not handing you a menu anymore. You got to do the QR code. That's pretty popular now. But even just like if you're sending things in the mail, right, and you're trying to use that as part of a marketing campaign, the QR code makes it really helpful now that all the phones just immediately pick up on it, right?
Yeah, and there's some cool tools that you can make odd shapes. So you could make one that looks like Bevoid and color it and everything, and they scan it and it goes, So our local food store has one that the outline of their food store with their name going on it. And that's any of their branded products now, their barcode looks like that. So it's kind of pretty cool. But yeah, it's becoming much more acceptable. And last year, it really forced a lot of changes. A lot of people weren't ready for things, and they had to. So restaurants pivoted. They did a good job with that kind of stuff. Here's my menu, online systems of ordering. All of these things. Some are still really horrible, but they've done a pretty good job of fixing it and getting it, usable pretty quick if they wanted to stay in business last year. So yeah, there's just a lot of technology that's rolling in marketing right now.
Here's another quick one that comes to the top of my head. People still doing advertising through their signatures, their email signatures?
Yeah. So, there's tools that are out there, and you create a signature, and you can put the graphics, and you can change them. So you can change them by profile. So your service department can have one signature, and your sales and marketing team could have another. Your execs could have another, and you can track click-throughs and see what people are doing. So if you're running a major campaign, you can drop that campaign in, change your signatures to what you want it to do, and that way it's again, be seen, be heard, be deliberate. It's another method of delivery, of brainwashing the end user to recognize your brand, right? So,
No, I mean,
there's
listen,
some great tools out there, and
it's the tricks. I
uh,
mean, but that's the thing, right? If you're not up on what's happening, you're missing out on kind of like what could be really easy. I call them hacks, but really easy things you could be doing that just, like they used to say it was like, oh, 7 touch points. Like, no, I think it's like 25 touch points now, right? How many times?
17 to 22 touch points before you're going to get a quality conversation.
That's a lot of work.
I didn't say qualified conversation. I said quality conversation where you can start to build that relationship, because, hey, business is still relationship, right? If you don't know me and I don't know you, why am I going to buy from you? Right?
It's true. 100%.
So they buy the relationship first.
No, and be honest with you, it's probably gonna be that way for a long, long time. Although
Always will be.
There's exceptions, right? Like the
Mhm.
Amazon reorder, right? Who's the relationship there? But better double check all your settings too, right? To make sure Amazon's not doing that sidewalk thing. That's a tip.
Yeah, turn off that sidewalk.
Better go off and turn that off, and make sure they didn't turn it back on, and you go back and turn it off again.
Well, I'm sure they'll reset it when they do an update to the software. They'll set it back to default, so you have to make sure you go back and do it, right?
So shady.
Yeah, it is.
Pete, I mean, it sounds like, let's face it, marketing's been its own kind of science for quite some time. The cool part is, just like technology's changing fast, marketing technology changes too, right? Like you kind of have to keep up with things. Pete brought some cool things up in this session, like, hey, cookies gonna go away soon. Like, I never didn't know that till this call. Or, hey, there's things you can do in order to use the social selling index, right? You've probably seen that before, but that's probably more targeted now than ever. And especially even the tip on hosting video on every platform separately, rather than trying to drag traffic out of those platforms. You'll lose kind of views, right? Because it won't show up into those feeds.
Yeah, think of how you flood the SEO feed, right? On Google, you get 7 feeds instead of 1.
So there's a lot of tricks, guys. And listen, you can spend the time if you have it. I would argue most people don't. So if you are looking for some tips, or if you're looking even for some educational items, right, things that you should be concentrating on, Pete, where can they find that, on your side? They can hit your
Actually, you can go to equilibriumconsult.com and go to our blogs. You'll find a lot of informational stuff there. You'll see a new launch of our website here probably within the next 15 days. We're at that 3-year mark on our website, and we're getting ready to refresh and blow it out. Our blogs are our big piece. If you go to our social, you'll see the feeds. So go ahead on LinkedIn, like our page, or Facebook, and come on out, read, look at what we're putting out there. There's 2 to 3 blogs every month that are coming out.
Awesome.
Good, relevant, current information.
And hey, if you're in the Northeast, a reminder, we're going to be in your neck of the woods the last 2 weeks of July. So maybe Pete might make an appearance. If you want to,
I'll be making an appearance. I'll be there.
Yeah, you get to see everybody.
It all depends on whether I'm trailering or driving. Which vehicle I'm driving.
Either way, we'll make sure we find you at a local cheesesteak stand near me.
Oh, that'll happen. We've got 2 locations very close by, so there's no doubt that we'll unhitch if we need to, and
100%
we'll go from there. Yep.
Although that you'll have to have that. That'll be your cheat day. That'll be your cheat day on the food chart.
I think on the road every day is a cheat day.
This session was recorded. You'll find it at mspinitiative.com under sessions. Every session's there. Download, rewind, fast forward, have at it. Don't forget to put your name into our monthly giveaway. Just click on giveaways, enter your name, email address, hit send. You'll be entered to win 1 of 10 prizes. And keep on following back here at 1:00 Tuesdays and Thursdays Eastern time, where we continue to talk about what's happening and maybe give you a little bit of help figure out what to do next. Pete, appreciate you for coming on. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we'll talk real shortly.
Sounds good. Take care, George.
Cheers,
All
guys.
righty. Bye.